we have, but wanted to go ahead and get started so that we don't wait too late. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Tara Proby. I serve as Director of Advocacy here with the National Guild of Community Arts Education. And the title of this webinar is Arts Activated Part 2. It's our second webinar in a series of 3. We will be focusing this webinar specifically on arts education policy. So before we get into our speakers, I'm going to have our Executive Director, Quanice Floyd, come on and give a few opening remarks.
Hello, hello. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you're having a great week. We're really excited to have you as a part of this Community Arts Activated Part 2. This is number 2 of 3 leading up to our Advocacy Day at our Conference for Community Arts Education. If you haven't done so already, please register for the National Guild Conference. It takes place April 9th to 12th, 2024 in Washington, D.C. And as a part of that, we are going down to Capitol Hill to advocate for community arts education. We're advocating for our communities. We're advocating for our organizations. We're advocating for our people. And so I just want to give a special thanks to the Music Man Foundation, who is supportive of the Guild's work and efforts around advocacy and exploring this new kind of program for the Guild. And so we are ready, we are activated, and we want to do this collectively with you all. And so I'm really excited to hear about the policy discussion today. I'm a policy wonk, so I'd love to hear about policy. And I'm really thankful for all of the speakers who are here today who are really advocating and working with the Guild to make sure that our voices are heard, to make sure our community's voices are heard, and to make sure that we are doing what we need to do on behalf of our communities. So welcome, everyone. Thank you. And if you haven't done so already, please register for the Guild Conference. I'm going to put it in the chat box. And we hope to see you in DC on Capitol Hill, April 9th through 12th.
Awesome. Thank you, Quanice. So I'm going to have our first speaker come on. Her name is Iris, and she serves as a staffer with the Senate Help Committee. Iris, it's all you.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you all for hosting this webinar. Hi everyone, my name is Iris Hin. I'm an Education Policy Advisor with the Senate Health Committee, which is the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And I work for Chair Sanders. So I cover some parts of K-12 in addition to leading our early childhood education and childcare work. The most relevant issues that I work on include the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities, and also after school and summer learning programs. So I'll give a bit of context of who my boss is, why he cares about arts education, and then also give a bit more context on federal arts funding and kind of the structure at the federal level. So Senator Sanders is very supportive of robust funding for the arts and has been for his whole career. It really stems from his time when he served as the mayor of Burlington way back when, and he created the Burlington Arts Council when he was mayor. And that council was designed to support the creativity and investments in the arts for all residents in the local community. And at that time, it was the first, municipally funded art program, and it was unheard of. And so he's always believed that these efforts to bring together, arts and specifically for historically underserved communities and, thinking about public spaces and how to really create community is really important. And so that art council funded a bunch of street murals, performance art, and music festivals, but he continues to be, as the current chair of the Senate Help Committee, a big supporter of the arts education. And so that's a bit of context of who my boss is. I can also say, as an overview of how federal arts funding kind of works. So there's the National Endowment for the Arts, which is a federal agency under the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities, very similar names. And that foundation was created in 1965. The NEAs, or the National Endowment for the Arts, is the largest funder of the arts of all disciplines in arts education in communities across the nation. The largest chunk of funding and program the NEA administers is awarded by formula to state and regional arts agencies. There are also a number of grant programs that are more direct funding. So there's the Grants for Arts Projects, which is a competitive grant program. So you apply, which is geared for nonprofits for grants in a variety of art disciplines. Their website has a list of all the different projects they might fund. There's also our Town program, which is, again, a competitive grant program. And it funds art projects to integrate art, culture, design activities into efforts to really strengthen communities and really focus on more like local level economic, physical, and social outcomes. And then the last direct grant program that NEA funds is Challenge America. And that, again, is a competitive grant program, and it provides support for projects that extend outreach to arts to underserved populations. And so I can drop the website for NEA in the chat if it's helpful for you all to kind of explore a bit more the work that they do, what they typically fund, and, you know, just to get a bit more familiar with it. But generally, you know, in fiscal year 2023, which the beginning of October 2022 and ended September 30th of 2023, NEA received $207 million in appropriations from the federal government. We are in a bit of a complex funding environment and political dynamic right now, and so fiscal year 24 hasn't quite been agreed to yet. But currently, you know, the Chair Sanders and other folks have been very supportive of funding requests for at least $211 million for the National Endowment for the Arts, and continue to work closely with appropriators to encourage as much funding as possible to this area. And with that, I can pass it back over to you, Tara.
Awesome. Thank you, Iris, for that, you know, overview, congressional overview as to what's going on when it comes to arts policy and arts education policy. So I really do appreciate that. I'm going to have our next speaker come on. Her name is Gianni, and she's going to be speaking to a bill that the National Guild has recently endorsed, something that I think is really important when it comes to the arts education pipeline. So Gianni, I will pass it to you.
Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you so much to the National Guild for allowing me to speak about the HBCU Arts Act. My name is Gianni Morsell. I am the Ed and Workforce LA for Congresswoman Susan Wild. Prior to this experience, I was in LA doing the same work for Congresswoman Alma Adams, working on the HBCU Arts Act. Just a little bit of context on the Congresswoman and on this bill. Congresswoman Alma Adams, she is an artist herself, and she was an art professor at Bennett College for over 40 years. So this was a project that was very near and dear to her, and I was very glad to come on board to this project. So HBCUs or historically Black colleges and universities. They have the principal mission of educating African Americans. They offer culture, a rich history, and rigorous academic programs to their students. And as a HBCU alumni myself, attending Morgan State University, I personally understand the impact and value that an HBCU education provides. And because of their mission, these institutions are uniquely positioned to provide or produce diverse generations of professionals, including arts professionals. And there are studies that have reported that only 1.4% of artists featured in America's top museums are Black, only 4% of top directors at top museums are Black, and 2.5% of African Americans who are owners of arts entertainment businesses. It is important, with knowing all of these statistics, that we cultivate environments where Black artists can flourish, and HBCUs provide that environment. And so the HBCU Arts Bill was created from the collective effort, kind of like Tara touched on before, of, you know, the National Endowment of the Arts, Howard University's College of Fine Arts, the National Guild, and the National Association of Music Education. We all came together and talked about, like, how can we really impact artists in this country, and how can HBCUs be a part of that? And so this bill, it highlights the importance of access to the arts and the role that HBCUs can play in producing African American artists. And so it will increase investment in HBCU arts education. It ensures that students of color have access to affordable arts and cultural programs designed to increase Black artists' conservation, study, and display of work. And to go into specifics, and some of it is on the slide here, it provides financial assistance to students. It establishes outreach programs. It creates comprehensive wraparound services. And then it also provides well-paid apprenticeships, internships, and fellowships to these HBCU students. And so this bill also encourages partnership with the National Endowment for the Arts as well. And, you know, I just really was excited really working on this bill because African-American artists who attend HBCUs will have the unique opportunity to learn and grow in this environment that was created for them and by them to alleviate burdensome cost of college through this bill. And with that, I thank you for your time and welcome any questions during our Q&A. And I'll take it back to Tara.
Awesome. Thank you, Gianni. As she mentioned, you know, this bill is really important. The Guild feels like, you know, it's an amazing endeavor in terms of really diversifying the pipeline of arts educators. So again, thank you, Gianni, for that awesome presentation. Our next bill that we're going to talk about more so looks at labor. So I'm going to have Mark Zintek come on. He is from Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez's office, speak to her Creative Workforce Investment Act. And the Guild was really influential in getting some language change, some language updates, excuse me, with this legislation, really recognizing community arts educators as, you know, not a separate entity within arts education, but definitely as a force when it comes to providing necessary arts education to various communities. So I will have Mark Zintek speak to Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez's bill.
There. Thank you, Tara and Quinice and National Guild for Community Arts Education for putting this event on today. Hi there. Mark Zintek. I'm with Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, who represents the New Mexico's 3rd Congressional District. I cover mainly her education and workforce portfolio. She sits on the Committee on Education and Workforce in the House, but also her arts portfolio, which is very important to our district. If you may not know, the New Mexico 3rd District includes Santa Fe, Taos, which are, you know, very historic arts communities with vibrant arts themselves, museums. So really the arts are essential to New Mexico's economy and culture. It's really at the heart of New Mexico and to the Congresswoman as well. She likes to talk about how she grew up around artists. So this issue is very near and dear to her heart. And it's not our only arts bill, actually. We have others, but I won't talk about those today. I can get into our Creative Workforce Investment Act. I believe the next slide should have some more details on that. So, you know, where this bill is coming from is, as mentioned, New Mexico, you know, we know the arts are serious business that can provide good paying jobs. You know, we have many potters, Native American potters, we have painters, but we also have the film industry in the state. Netflix has studios there, NBC Universal. So we know kind of from, say, from stagehands to silversmiths, you know, creative workers serve in a diverse amount of roles in our community and, you know, sustain families on those wages that they get. And the arts are a serious business. In 2021, over $1 trillion, you know, came from the arts, contributing to the economy, employing 4.9 million workers. So, you know, it's not just kind of a feel-good thing. We like to say it's as important as like the transportation industry, as construction. I think it's actually contributed more to GDP than construction. So, and it's also a net exporter in the arts. So, you know, we are sending our art around the world. But we don't see, you know, the same type of investment from the federal government into the labor sector within the creative economy. So that's where Congresswoman Ledger Fernandez wanted to introduce the Creative Workforce Investment Act, which we introduced in a bipartisan manner we like to tout, with Representative Jay Obernolte from California, and Representative Ted Lieu from California also joined us as a co-lead this Congress. It also has a companion in the Senate with led by Senator Ben Ray Lujan from New Mexico and Senator Padilla from California. So at a high level, what this bill would do is really transform the investment into the creative economy workforce through a new $300 million grant program from the Department of Labor and the National Endowment for the Arts. And really what this competitive grant program would be targeted at is employers within the creative economy can kind of get into, it's a pretty diverse array of employers that could benefit and workers to employ creative workers to create publicly accessible art or arts programming. Now, this bill actually came out of the previous Congress where it was called the Creative Economy Revitalization Act, which was really inspired by the public works that came out of the New Deal programs that we saw and, the public art that was created there too. And the Congresswoman wanted to continue that legacy to what we had coming out of the pandemic with artists, I think it was over 60% unemployment in the creative economy. But since then, we've really seen, this bounce back. So we wanted to account for how the creative economy has bounced back since the pandemic, really, which is why we are now saying, we still need this programming to invest in the creative workforce now, to really respect, and recognize, how much it contributes. So, as Tara mentioned, we do recognize that community arts educators and arts educators could benefit as well with this bill. So, as I mentioned, this can be any public art, such as a mural, that could be funded through this, dance performances, concerts, but also arts education programming, as long as it's publicly accessible, because we know the investment needs to be there. And, this bill is, we're trying to get it passed this Congress. And I think Tara asked me to say, how can people help support this effort? This bill would benefit nationwide with potential grants. So if you, ask your local representative to help co-sponsor the bill, really help get the word out about it. And we are also still taking endorsements from local arts organizations. I think at this point, we probably have close to 80 arts endorsers, and also on the labor side. You forgot to mention, important unions like IATSE, AFL-CIO, their arts unions are on this bill too, because they recognize the importance that the creative economy has in terms of labor and workforce as well. And thank you for your time, and I'll stick around for the questions and answers in case anyone has questions for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark, for that presentation on the Creative Workforce Investment Act. And so give me one moment here. So switching gears, last but certainly not least, when it comes to the policy that we're looking at, specific bills, I'm going to have Rumor from Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez's office come on and speak to a resolution that was actually introduced yesterday with the Guild. This is very unique to the Guild's work. We're really excited about this. It's a resolution to recognize February 28th as National Community Arts Education Day. So I will have Rumor come on and speak about that resolution now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tara and Quinice, for inviting me to speak today at this policy discussion on arts education. I work for Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez as her senior legislative assistant, doing education and a number of different issue areas. And the Congresswoman has been a longtime advocate for arts education, more specifically music education. As the representative from New York City, I think this work is even more important for us because, as we all know, New York City is such a diverse place, and the arts industry actually has a $5.6 billion impact on the New York City and New York, New Jersey economy. So just underscoring the importance of arts. And in the past Congresses, my boss has also introduced other legislations I'll just briefly touch on. One was the Guarantee Access to Arts and Music Education Act with Senator Cory Booker. And then we also did another resolution, March is Music in Our Schools Month. But when it comes to community arts education, which I know is the focus of this webinar, I'd like to first start by thanking all of the educators that are leading the artistic work each day and, who are an important part of the workforce and the larger arts community. I think of musicians, teaching artists, administrators, dance instructors, drama teachers, and more. And as we all know on this call, community arts educators in and outside of the classrooms help individuals of all ages and backgrounds connect to their creative side, build skills, share cultures, and most importantly, create community. And so in that spirit, my boss, as Tara mentioned, introduced a resolution expressing support for the designation of February 28th as Community Arts Education Day. We were able to introduce that resolution yesterday with the support of Representatives Grijalva, Cleaver, Eleanor Holmes Norton, and Shakowski. And so those were our original co-sponsors. And, really happy to have this resolution introduced. And of course, members can still be added over the next couple of weeks since the bill is officially live. And I also just want to continue to highlight that community arts education is an inclusive approach to participating in the arts community, which was definitely a driving force behind us doing this resolution in addition to the other ones that we've done in the past. And, I think it makes community arts education is definitely not a partisan issue. It's definitely something that people can support regardless of party affiliation. And now I will close with the last line of the resolution, which happens to be my favorite part, which reads, "Now therefore it be resolved that the House of Representatives supports Community Arts Education Day and recognizes Community Arts Education Day is more crucial than ever as a vehicle for activism, individual and collective self-expression and healing." And I know that's one of the guiding principles of the National Guild as well. So thank you all for having me and for the work that you do.
Thank you, Romer. That was great. So, as all the staffers mentioned, these are bills that the Guild has endorsed. Quanice has provided a statement for all of the official press releases. If at any point in time your respective organization is interested in endorsing these legislative endeavors, please feel free to do so. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to the respective staffer. In order to do that, it's an ongoing thing in terms of the legislative process. So again, if you're interested in providing organizational endorsement, you can do that by emailing us. So we're going to wrap up our presenters by bringing on Phyllis Paisley. She's going to be speaking more so to the state and local level advocacy efforts that her organization has made, but also in general. Okay, so I will actually go through some of Phyllis's slides for her. It looks like she's having some issues with her microphone here. Okay, so Phyllis is with the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education. She serves as the executive director for the organization. Next slide, please. With this slide, Phyllis has outlined the organization's mission and vision. The mission of the Missouri Alliance for Arts Education is that it works to support, promote, and advocate for fine arts education for the benefit of all Missourians. And their vision is we envision quality fine arts education in all Missouri schools, ensuring that every student discovers and develops their fullest potential. Next slide, please.
Tara, I can tell you now I was able to unmute.
Awesome.
Can you hear me now? So sorry.
Yes, I can. No worries. So I will go ahead and turn it over to you to present for state and local level engagement.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm so glad to follow the previous speaker too. The Missouri Alliance for Arts Education spent a lot of its early years just supporting K-12 educators in public schools and private schools who were members of our statewide arts education organizations. And it was in 2018, I believe, the organization in their latest version of their strategic plan said there's a lot of great arts ed that's happening beyond that within our communities as well. So we are also very interested in improving our ability to deliver support services to anyone, teaching artists, community arts agencies that are engaging in arts ed, because we believe it will make our world a better place. So we feel that the Alliance is a really critical player in the scene here in Missouri, because we do build coalition, bringing people together. And we also just monitor legislation and initiatives that are being proposed by policymakers at the state level. And we feel like it's cost effective because lots of people cannot afford to do all this. Each organization can't afford to hire their own legislative liaisons that can have boots on the ground at our state capitol. So that is kind of the why behind why we're here. You can move to the next slide, Tara. Typically, most of our work is at the state level in these areas that are listed here: advocacy work, networking, and professional development. At the national level, we have, as Tara mentioned earlier, we have signed on to many of those resolutions or letters of support sponsored by the Congress folks that were represented by their legislative representatives here. So you can move to the next slide. It gives, what I have here is just a little bit of showing our engagement over time. As I mentioned, we started, this is at the tail end of the pandemic here, 2021, measuring our impact, and we are showing growth over time. And what we are also recognizing is, even though the primary beneficiaries of our services are arts educators themselves, they impact a large number of their students and their communities that are impacted. So we have estimated our indirect outreach at nearly 500,000 in our state. Next slide, please. We do consider ourselves the eyes and ears and voice for our statewide policy. We visit our state Board of Education meetings each month and provide reports, because let's face it, our classroom teachers and even teaching artists and folks that have a more flexible schedule can't get to our state capitol each month and listen in. So we just try to keep everyone informed, and also keep our ear to the ground of how we can support locally. Next slide, please. So I already mentioned, we do engage with the legislature. We do have a legislative liaison that helps us maintain and build positive relationships with our legislature, as well as the members of our State Board of Education. I have these 3 examples here in areas where we have, excuse me, collaborated locally. We have a Right to Read coalition within our state that is helping. Our state is suffering from a large number of censorship issues as it relates to curricular materials. And so the Right to Read coalition is working on behalf of that. A direct result of the pending legislation that has been offered, and also rules in place by our, or that were proposed by our Secretary of State, that were rather prohibitive in their students' ability to access information. We recognize that it's just a short step from censorship there to censoring artistic freedom. So we did draft a statement of artistic freedom, which you can check out on our website, and anyone is welcome to endorse that as well. And finally, the Missouri Budget Project has been at the forefront of some anti-DEI legislative language that has been part of the budget bills for the last 2 years. They were able to have that language removed from the fiscal year 24 budget, and it is present again, or at least being discussed in the budget bills for this year. So we're remaining vigilant and in touch with our collaborative partners so that we can ensure that people have access to information, and that in alignment with our mission statement, we want arts education for all. You can move on to the next slide. We have a few specific advocacy programs that are outlined here. Happy to direct you to our website to learn more about each one. But one is just like a day we try to inundate our state capitol with a celebration of fine arts. The night before, we provide training for students who might want to meet with their legislators the next day. And then one of my favorites is this Senate Student Fine Arts exhibit. We are able to collect this year over 1,300 pieces of student art. We have them sorted by our 34 Senate districts, and each senator chooses a single work of student art to represent them for the coming year. And then that is on display in a little gallery walk that connects the Capitol building to the Senate parking garage. And it just does a really great way of building positive relationships with our Senate lawmakers. Next slide, please.
I think that's the end of the slide presentation.
Okay,
Tara, am I
thank
missing
you.
something?
No, it may be just me that forgot I was going to say thank you at the end. So I'll just say thank you. I've been so pleased to be invited here today and to share a little bit about what's going on in Missouri. And I too am happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Awesome, thank you. So at this point, we're going to open it up to Q&A. If anyone has questions for our lovely speakers regarding the various legislation that they presented on, maybe some state, local level engagement, as Phyllis just concluded speaking on, we'll go ahead and take those questions. You can put them in the chat, you can unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with. One thing I will ask you, Phyllis, just building off of your last slide, how have you seen that student level engagement actually inform a lot of, the changes, say on the local level or state level? Have you seen any sort of change effectuated, or how do you think student
It would
engagement?
be, well, thank you for the question. It would be difficult to quantify it, but I will tell you that my perception when student voices are involved is that legislators listen differently than they do when I'm talking or when another adult is talking. It's almost as though there's the assumption that I have some sort of hidden agenda. But when students come and say, my teacher did this and it meant the world to me, it saved me or it helped me, meaning the policymakers, really do listen differently. And so that's one of the reasons why we initiated the student senate, the advocacy training that precedes our advocacy day, so that they, number one, will learn things like how to shake hands or make eye contact and those kinds of basic interpersonal skills, but then also that they're informed about a few of the issues and what they might say. And the other thing is that it humanizes. People tend to separate themselves from their lawmakers or elected officials or even appointed governmental officials, that, oh, I can't talk to that person. And so we hope that we will just build a generation of folks who are more comfortable in letting their voices be heard.
That's awesome. Yeah, I asked that question because, and I know that you had joined the first webinar, but I find it very interesting, this idea of creating linkages between a younger generation and people who are actively, say, doing arts education advocacy, and where we've been able to really effectuate change in building those bridges. So I think that's awesome. So I don't see any questions right now in the chat. Looks like Rumor did drop some information in terms of her contact information. And please, all of the speakers, feel free to do so. I'd like for people to have your contact information. If they have additional questions, maybe they want to ask offline, they don't feel comfortable, or they'd like to show some sort of support regarding the different legislation that we've discussed today. So feel free to drop your email, your contact information in the chat. I'd like for participants to have that information. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay, so in that sense, since it does not look like we have any actual Q&A questions, I'm going to have Quanice come back on briefly so she can give some closing remarks for everyone. Looks like Gianni dropped her information as well, so that's good.
Awesome. So I just want to thank you all for coming in today. Thank you to Rumor, Mark, Gianni, Iris, and Phyllis for being our speakers. One thing I really want to take back for everybody who's currently in here I know folks really want to be activated and engaged and make sure that they're supporting their communities. And so they are examples of folks who are doing the work, right? And we have to do this work in tandem with one another, whether we're doing it in the community, whether we're doing it through an alliance for arts education, whether we're doing it in the Capitol. These are folks who are doing the work, and I know you all are doing the work on the ground, and it takes all of us, right? We're all a part of this greater ecosystem to make our communities better. And so I'm really, really excited to make sure that, as we're building the Guild up, that we're building these collective movements, right? We have to be in solidarity with one another. We have to be in unity with one another. And to see that there's so much support for arts education, community arts education is really, really exciting. And so this is a time for us to really come together as one voice to really support our communities. And so we're really, really excited for all of this work. I am hoping that there's more opportunities and more bills that focus on community arts in the future, hint, 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 on a state, federal, and local level. And so if there's any questions that you all have in regards to getting support from the Guild for our members in the audience, please feel free to reach out to us, because we want to make sure that your voices are heard, your communities are supported, and that community arts education is a part of every single conversation. We don't want to do this in a silo. We have to do this with folks in the medical field. We have to do this with folks in the health field. We have to do this with folks in finance. We have to do this with folks in transportation. We have to do it together. So I am looking forward to seeing you all on Capitol Hill in April. If there is anything you need, please reach out. And again, thank you so much to all of our amazing speakers. Thank you for all of the hard work. We know that we watch y'all on whatever stations we watch y'all on, and we know this work is hard. Being on the Capitol is hard. So we want to just give our thanks and love to you all as you're kind of navigating these walls of Capitol Hill. And we want to thank you for continuously supporting us and our community. So thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Quanice. Thank you again, as she mentioned, to our speakers, to everyone who could join this amazing call. And I went ahead and dropped my email address in the chat, so feel free to reach out if you have additional questions regarding today's presentation. And with that, I will give you all back your time. Looks like we have over 15 minutes. So you all enjoy the rest of your day and have a good afternoon. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.